Well, our thanks there go to the news desk team once again for their news items. And now we take a break from the news desk for another of our regular interviews. And I'm delighted to be joined in the Llanelli Talking Newspaper of the Blind studio by Mr. Kelvin Guy. Now, Kelvin is the chairman of the Carmarthen Bay Film Festival, which will be taking place in Llanelli later this year. He's also famous, he's also well known for being a relative of Llanelli's greatest film star, Gareth Hughes. Now, Gareth Hughes was a great star of the silent screen. Kelvin, welcome to the studio.
Hello.
And tell me, how did you first discover that you had this link then to one of the great Hollywood stars of the black and white silent era?
Well, my grandmother used to always speak about him when I was a young lad, about 10, and bring out letters that he'd sent to my great-grandmother, who was his auntie. And she actually used to keep the Myrtle house down the bottom of Beacon Hill there. And she always spoke about her cousin, who was a missionary out in Nevada, and also being a Hollywood film star. And when you're young, you don't take any notice of these things. So anyway, a few years later on, about close to 20 odd years later on, I started to attend a writing class in Swansea, and they were looking for subjects to write about. And I just happened to mention that a relative of mine was being a Hollywood star, and people didn't believe. So I said to them, okay, I'll bring in photos and letters in next week to prove this. So the following week came, and I managed to speak to my mother in the meantime. She had a few old photos and a couple of letters that she'd kept after her mother. And I brought them in, one being quite a large photo, a portrait of him as a young lad. And I brought it in, and people just couldn't believe that that I was related to and had an attachment kind of to one of Wales's very first Hollywood stars, if you like.
And he was a star. We're talking, what in terms of time, early 1900s.
Early 1900s. Yeah, so you're talking about a period between 1918 and 1931.
Right. And had he born in Llanelli and he'd simply emigrated to America? Or?
He was born in halfway, and his father was a working class as his mother, and he was went to Cozil school before it became a secondary modern school, when it was like the grammar school in those days, I suppose, or equivalent to a grammar school. And he was promised to a local chemist to be an apprentice, but he always had a kind of leaning towards theatrical things and putting plays on in school and the local Dram Society and that kind of thing. And his parents and in the family could see that his heart was in this, and he wanted to go off and become a famous actor, or certainly get on the stage in some way and get involved in theatre life. So they all chipped together and bought him a train ticket so he could go off to London to seek his fortune. And that's how he got into it. He made his way to London and found a job at the Haymarket Theatre in London, and worked his way up on to being a stage manager. And things just went on from there, and eventually he joined one of the first all kind of Welsh group of theatre actors, along with another actress from Llanelli, Eleanor Daniels. And they all went off across to New York to tour or to perform in New York. Unfortunately, they weren't that great success in New York. They were quite a flop, really. So they decided to come back. But Gareth was enchanted by the big city, the big lights. And New York was a kind of a very vibrant, up and coming place in those days, and kind of the big city lights kind of syndrome. And he decided to stay on, and he basically just didn't look back.
Right. And the name Gareth Hughes is right up there with the legends of the screen in Hollywood. And
I mean, when he went, it was the beginning of the pictures, the moving pictures. Certainly the very beginning, especially out in Hollywood, and he was in demand. He was a very nice, very good-looking boy. He could, there's no doubt, he could act, and he fell in with the right crowd. He was there. He was in movies with Rudolph Valentino. Even though he didn't always have the big part, he was always had plenty of work. If it was just co-starring or supportive roles, he was in amongst it. It was happening, at that time, the way it was happening at that time.
Yeah. I think it's fair to say that lots of us in Llanelli were fairly ignorant of the name Gareth. He was connected to the history of film and cinema until you've helped to publicise it, and you've done a bit of a film as well, Kevin.
I've done a short documentary which is about 35 minutes long, and I was very fortunate to go out to the States back firstly in 2006 after doing some research, and funny enough, I did some searches and sent some emails out via the internet, and came across this little town in Nevada called Fallon, and I knew that he'd worked on the data because the Pyramid Lake reservation where Gareth eventually went on to work was about 30-40 miles from there. So I just sent some cold emails out inquiring if they'd heard of Gareth or if they came across Gareth, and I had an email back from one of the researchers at one of the local museums saying that she knew Gareth, and she actually remembered him coming to preach at her church when she was a small girl. Now this lady is 61, 62, and she remembers him very well, and in fact she was of Welsh descent herself, and her father had come from Hereford back in the day and set up home in Nevada. So it's through her really that I got all the other contacts then into the reservation and things like that, which goes into the second part of Gareth's story, if you like. I mean, the main part, obviously, the people are a lot more interested in the Hollywood side because of the artist now at the moment. But really, Gareth considers his life in Nevada with the Pirate Indians one of his greatest achievements. And certainly the best part of his life, that's where he achieved the most and lived the most, and certainly gets the most joy out of. I think,
yeah. He's certainly coming to prominence now, though I understand there's a stage play going to be done involving his name coming up in London shortly in the near future. I read about that recently in the Western Mail a couple of days ago. It's apparently based on his relationship with Hedda Hopper. Now, they both met back in 1919 on a film, on the set of a film called Isle of Conquest. They were both very young in those days, and they kept up their friendship through letters and probably visiting each other now and again for many, many years. And when Gareth retired, he retired to the Woodland Hills retirement home, which is based in Los Angeles, where I've again been to. And they used to meet for tea and things like this and that. And the story goes, which I've had from Gareth's great nephew, is that one day this lady walked in with this very over-the-top, big hat type lady, kind of thing going on, walked in, and he asked her, who's this then? Who's this lady having tea with you? Well, that's Hedda Hopper, of course, to a 10-year-old boy. It didn't mean a thing until years and years on. But apparently she went up to do, which was one of her last columns for the LA Times, because it used to be syndicated all across America. But LA Times were to put this into their paper, just speaking about his life and his kind of achievements, if he had any regrets on turning his back on, Hollywood, and which he never did have. But apparently it's going to be based on their kind of relationship. If, how far you can go with that, I don't know, but that's the way it's going to go, apparently. It's a fascinating story, the life of Gareth Hughes, and I know you've done a great deal of research into it, Kelvin, but you're also very busy nowadays. You're chairman of the Carmarthen Bay Film Festival, which will be coming up, I think, in May, That's right. That's going to be this May at the Strati Park Hotel. Starts on the 8th and goes through to the 11th.
One of the reasons why I wanted to bring a festival to the town is again to kind of revive the memory of Gareth by having something to celebrate the fact that so many stage and screen kind of legends and famous people have come out, not just out of the town but out of the county. Not only Gareth, you've got Sean Phillips, you've got Hywel Bennett, you've got the Cass brothers, the writing musical skills of the Cass brothers, and all Pam Ferris, okay, even if she just lived here briefly, but all these people have come out of the town, and I think we needed something to celebrate that fact and to give a showcase to the up-and-coming actors and filmmakers and give them a chance to show their work to a wider audience. I think it'll be good for the town because it'll bring people into the town, it'll bring people into the county, and it gives a chance to show off the town and show a positive side of the town to outsiders, if you like, a better word,
Excellent. It sounds like a thoroughly good idea, and and it's the first festival of its kind in Llanelli. We wish you all the very best of luck with it, Kelvin, and hopefully you'll come back in and talk to us a little bit more with the film festival before it starts, or just as it starts.
Okay.
Kelvin Guy, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks very much.